Hello and welcome to our second video in our sequence on international macro. This video will deal with certain definitions of economic variables that we need to talk about the different topics we're going to cover later when we get into the model. The main two are the current account and net exports. So let's get into it. The first thing is these are national account variables. So I encourage you to go back to chapter 2 because the discussion we're going to have now is all based on the section called Savings, Wealth, and Capital. This is a section you should be reading in order to understand this topic. And by now you should be asking, why savings? We were talking about trade. The reason is that when an economy opens to trade, it also opens to international flow of funds. And what does that mean exactly? What funds are flowing? Well, the funds that are flowing are domestic savings being lent abroad, say to other countries, and foreign savings coming into the country as domestic debt to foreign debtors. Now, this is very important because it basically tells us that there is a two-sided relationship between how much a country trades and the flow of funds between saving and borrowing across countries that takes place. So to study open economies, we need to understand the consumption and saving choices inside the country. That's what we're going to do later when we get into the endowment economy we're going to cover. Now going forward in this set of slides, we're going to talk about private and government savings. Then we're going to get together these private and government savings and define national savings. And finally, we're going to see what the relationship is between these savings and the current account. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about private savings. And these are nothing but however is left of the disposable income of consumers after they have consumed. Okay, so that's the simple definition of private savings. But what constitutes disposable income for consumers? Well, it's all the income that consumers have from all different sources. The disposable part just means that it is net of taxes. So we have disposable income being equal to Y, that is GDP, which measures all domestic income. Net foreign payments, these are just payments from abroad, net of payments made to foreigners. So this is going to be income coming from abroad. A good example is the ownership of firms abroad or payments of profits to foreign multinationals. Now, in all the examples and the models we're going to cover in the slides, we're going to assume that net foreign payments are equal to 0. But in problem set 4, you can see an example with multinationals where in that example, net foreign payments are going to play a big role. The next term here, interest, these are interest payments of government debt to private agents. And finally, we have to take net transfers. Okay, so net transfers are transfers made from the government to private agents, net of taxes, which are just transfers made from private agents to the government. Notice that in the models we've done so far, and actually in the models we're going to do going forward, we usually call just T as net taxes. So when in the model we talk of T, we're actually talking in the data of T minus transfers. Okay, that's just the opposite of net transfers. This is net taxes. All right. Now that we have private savings, let's go into government savings. So government savings is just another name for government deficit. The definition is very simple, and we already know what deficit is. It's all sources of government income. These are taxes, net of all expenses that the government has. These are transfers, interest, and government spending. So here we have savings made by the government, that is tax income, minus government expenses, transfers made to private agents, interest payments made to private agents, and just government spending. When we look at it in the model, this expression looks a little bit different. That's the discussion we were having at the end of the previous slides. In the model, we define net taxes, T minus TR. So in the model, we won't have the TR flying around. We're just going to have T minus interest payments minus the government spending. And you can see that this is just the definition of the negative deficit. So when there is a negative deficit, the government is saving. When there is a positive deficit, the government is dissaving, it's getting in debt. Okay, now that we have government savings and private savings, we can talk about national savings. And there's really no mystery to it. National savings are just total savings, private plus government savings. When we sum these two, the implication is that all the transfers between agents inside the same country are going to cancel. These are the taxes, the transfers, and the interest payments. Notice that these were things that were flowing between the two agents inside the same economy. So once we get all that canceling done, we're going to get that total national or total savings are going to be the disposable income, the domestic income, sorry, the net foreign payments, so income coming from within the country, income coming from abroad, net of all expenditures, both private consumption and government expenditures. Okay? Now, what does this have to do with the current account? We've spent some time now defining what savings are, but we still don't know what that has to do with the current account or with international trade for that matter. Well, here it is. The relationship comes because total national income, domestic income Y, it's also equal to total expenditure. This is consumption plus investment plus government spending plus net exports. When we replace this, we're going to get that total savings are equal to investment plus the current account. The current account being the sum of net exports plus net foreign payments. And this relationship is actually very important because the current account measures the net flow of resources from abroad. For example, positive net exports mean that there are more goods flowing out of the country. There's more exporting than importing. But that also implies that there are payments flowing in. When the country is exporting, foreigners are paying domestic producers. And also when there are positive net foreign payments, well, that literally means that foreign payments are flowing into the country. And this is going to be relevant because it balances out the differences between savings and investment. That's what we're going to see next. So when we talk about current account deficits and surpluses, well, we're going to be talking about the way in which the market is going to be able to balance domestic savings and domestic investment. In a closed economy, savings are all invested in the country. If somebody wants to save in the net, once all the saving and borrowing is net out between members of the same country, all the savings have to be invested. That means if you, for some reason, want to invest more, you need to save more. And that's costly in terms of consumption. If you want to invest less, but you were saving a lot, you don't have anywhere to put that money. In a closed economy, savings have to equal investment. In an open economy, you can have a savings deficit. S, the savings, is how much money you have to invest, net of how much money you want to invest, I. That difference, that deficit, can be met by foreign resources, and these foreign resources are the current account. So current account deficits, that is, if current account is less than zero, means that the country is able to invest more than what it's saving. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Investment will allow the country to exploit future productivity and grow more. So in principle, we might want countries to be able to invest beyond what they can save. Okay? That's what it's allowing it. It allows the country to sustain relatively high consumption, low savings, and still invest. When you have a current account surplus, so that is, if the current account is positive, the country is saving more than it's investing. And this is not necessarily a bad thing, because investing abroad might be a better deal than investing in certain projects that are viable. So overall, opening to trade, this link between on one side trade of goods and on the other side flow of funds, it's allowing countries to meet their investment and savings demand. Okay? Now I should note, and with this we will finish this video, that this is more than just investment. Savings on the current account is actually about smoothing consumption. Let's see that. In an economy without investment, we know that savings are exactly equal to the current account. And so what this is saying is the following. If the country wants to save, those savings are captured by the current account surplus. So if a country wants to save, It's basically producing more goods than it wants to consume. It can save by exporting those goods. Think of China, a country with a large current account surplus and also with large excess savings. But then also, if a country needs to borrow from abroad, that borrowing is going to come through a current account deficit. But also, that additional consumption beyond what the country can produce, it's coming through imports. And we can think of large countries like the US where they can sustain current account deficits, which are not necessarily a bad thing because they are allowing the country to consume more and save less. Then finally, note that here we're not saying that nobody can borrow or save in the country. We're saying this is national savings. So it does not take into account saving and borrowing across agents of the same country. So that is netted out. Okay. Having said that, with this we finish our second video, and in our next video we're gonna cover what makes an economy open, and importantly for us, what do we mean when we talk about small open economies.